Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Johns Hopkins, for inviting me to speak here today and for your determination to cure cancer. By researching and advancing the latest drugs and many clinical trials, you're helping me survive. A Woman's Journey is the network needed to advocate for our health, to keep us connected with other females and physicians, and to keep us strong when life feels tough. A very special thank you to my friend Dorothy Blagrove, who joined me from Arlington, Virginia, my mother-in-law, Sonia Lersten, from Albuquerque, and Lillian Lindell, her cousin, from Tampa. It means a lot that you've come here today. My oldest child, several years back, was 12 years old and had just received an iPhone as a gift. And that was around the time of my advanced cancer diagnosis. It was a communication tool that kept both of us going. I got a text one night that said, "Mom, are you okay?" And I could have yelled to the next room, "I'm just fine," but I texted back. And I asked him if he wanted to talk, and he said yes. That moment still brings tears to my eyes this day. We sat on the edge of the tub, and he cried, "I'm not ready for you to die." My 3-year-old at that time knew Mom had boo-boos, and my 6-year-old never wanted to talk about anything. And my 9-year-old, interestingly, he wanted to go to infusions and learn more systemically, how do you get rid of cancer? My husband, an amazing soul, he was afraid. How could he raise 4 young kids if I died? I wasn't ready to leave them. It was profoundly sad. You can't say everything is going to be fine, but what you do is you hug tight and you say, "I'm giving this all I have." That was 5 years ago. I'm honored to be here today in this beautiful city. We snuck over to Palm Beach, the island, last night. It's phenomenal. I'm a stage 4 melanoma mom surviving cancer. I've learned so much on this journey, and I will share with you today the guiding principles that I believe have really driven me to be here with you today, to survive. My first principle is listen to your gut instinct and act with a sense of urgency. My original diagnosis was in 2003 when I found a small pinkish spot on my calf. It didn't even look like a typical mole. And it was actually my mom who pushed me to the dermatologist when she noticed it changing. And the dermatologist didn't think it needed to be removed. But I thought it was ugly, and I wanted it off my calf. So I insisted, get it off. I was pregnant with my second child. We were living in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. And I flew to the US for surgery. And at that time, the surgeon told me that I had saved my life by insisting the spot be removed because it tested for stage 1 melanoma. Vanity saved my life. I was told there was a 98% chance that I would never see cancer again. So fast forward to a Wednesday night in 2012, 9 years later, 9 years of nothing. 9 years after my stage 1 melanoma diagnosis, and several kids later, I was putting my then 3-year-old to bed, and I found a lump near my groin. I went to my primary physician that Friday, and it's important to remember these days because this has been part of my drive to surviving. I went to the physician on a Friday who said it could be the result of an ingrown hair. I did not think it was an ingrown hair. I remember crying alone with my baby girl asleep that night because I knew it was more. It felt like a marble, and it was on the same leg of my original diagnosis, just higher up. At my insistence, I got an immediate referral to an oncologist, and I met with him 3 days later on a Monday. Do you know how hard it is to get an oncologist appointment within a matter of days? The oncologist, who also suspected something, I could just see it on his face, recommended a surgeon who happened to be in the same building as he. And I went straight to the surgeon's office. They told me the surgeon was going on vacation and would not be able to meet with me for 3 weeks. I was falling apart, and I knew I could not wait 3 weeks. My tears were real, and in front of 25 people in that waiting room, I lost it, I cried, I got in the door that moment. I'm not saying to cry your way in, but it definitely worked. And I just sat, I remember, in the surgeon's lunch area. I just was a wreck. I thought, this is it. The surgeon agreed to do the surgery before his vacation, which was in 2 days. From the time I found the lump on a Wednesday to meeting with the oncologist and the surgeon on a Monday and having surgery 2 days later, the time that lapsed was 7 days. 7 days. And on that 7th day, I had 1 lump removed. I drove that very same day to Boy Scouts camp to spend a few nights with one of my kids. Couldn't get in the water, but I was there to be with my son. And it was at Boy Scouts camp when I got the call that said I had tested for melanoma stage 3. A few weeks later, I had 22 lymph nodes removed from a phenomenal female surgeon, Dr. Lisa Jacobs at Johns Hopkins. All nodes were clear. Regardless of what the doctors told me, an ingrown hair, or the front office staff in the waiting room, you can't see the doctor until 3 weeks. I trusted my instincts. I forged ahead with a strong sense of urgency. It was my life at stake. Trusting my gut and progressing with speed have always helped me get closer to the finish line. With the beautiful Florida sun, if there are spots or moles or something that seems off or odd-shaped or changing, go get checked. Taking action can save your life like it has mine. My second principle is leave no stone unturned. I work for the Department of Energy, the National Nuclear Security Administration, and we are charged with ensuring our nation's nuclear security is second to none. That is the best. I've served in Russia working to secure plutonium and highly enriched uranium and helping consolidate the weapons from Belarus, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. I have visited many Russian closed cities, the kind that are not on the maps. Maybe they are today, but they weren't then. And I required special access to get into these closed cities. And sometimes I wonder, was my cancer triggered there? I visited a lot of Russian nuclear facilities. How much radiation was I exposed to? I also served as the Department of Energy senior representative in the Middle East, establishing key partnerships in the oil and gas industry and trying to build scientific partnerships to advance the U.S. nuclear security agenda. When it comes to securing materials to prevent nuclear-related technology from spreading globally, when it comes to protecting America, no stone should be left unturned. And leaving no stone unturned applies to my cancer. Learning I had cancer shocked me to the core from the first stage 1 diagnosis in 2003, when it returned and became advanced cancer in 2012, when it came back in 2014 to the liver, now stage 4, when it returned to the liver in 2015, and when it reinserted its ugly head just last year outside of the colon wall. It felt like my life was over each time. It did not and was not getting easier for me. And I cried and I cried and I cried so hard each time it came back. I'm really beginning to think I'm a crier. My 4 kids would not have a mother. I thought each time, why doesn't it get easier with no evidence of disease windows? I would not see my children grow to prom, get married, have kids. Cancer was a death sentence, I thought. My advanced cancer timeframe, 2012 to the present, is an important timeframe for melanoma patients. In fact, I'm told there is no better time to have melanoma. This is the great window. There were very few options to treat melanoma prior to 2011, when the very first immunotherapy drugs were introduced. Unlike chemotherapy, immunotherapy does not go after the cancer destroying the good cells and the bad. It revs up your immune system to fight the cancer. Chemotherapy knocks people down. Immunotherapy drugs, while not a cakewalk, can be managed, I have found. Every time I've had a recurrence, I have the choice to listen to professionals and do simply what they said, or be proactive about my care, taking initiative. And I chose the latter. I developed a plan A and plan B, and I always have a backup plan. Asking questions along the way, making decisions, sometimes challenging what the doctors recommended. And I'll tell you more about that. And ultimately having enough information so that I could make an informed decision and feel good about it. When you are on a cancer journey, the decisions you make have to feel good to you. I insisted on more scans than the doctor said I needed. I researched and traveled all over the East Coast, from DC up to New York. I ventured out to Texas and visited the best oncology units. I delved into reading more about alternative medicinal practices. I said I wanted surgery when one doctor said stay on treatment. I searched desperately for survivors across the country, and I reached out to them for advice and guidance. I chose to develop my own plan that worked for me. And as a result, I have a team of oncologists who consult with one another. Dr. Evan Lipson from Johns Hopkins, close to my home, knows I started my journey with Dr. Anna Pavlik in New York. When I saw Dr. Lipson recently, he volunteered that he would make sure Dr. Pavlik had the latest scan information, even though I wasn't seeing Dr. Pavlik anymore. And I have this amazing oncologist, Dr. Lipson. You have got to meet him. He took the time to call her, to email her, to share scan information, because it's a very personal journey. He knew I felt an emotional connection with her. What an amazing mindset. That is the type of doctor that you want on your side. And I don't have just one doctor on my side, I have two. The team of surgeons. I have had 7 different surgeons operate on me. 4 of those major surgeries. The first surgery, who told me I saved my life when I had the stage 1 diagnosis. The one local hospital surgeon, the one I cried my way into. 1 from New York, 1 from MD Anderson, and 3 from Hopkins. Dr. Marty Paul of Hopkins, and another amazing, amazing individual, removed 6 inches of my colon. He brought me in on a Tuesday, removed part of the colon, and I was out the next day. And in 10 days, I was doing light yoga. He reinforced Dr. Lipson's philosophy. I'll share with anyone on your team. That's the type of surgeon you want on your side. My alternative team, a naturalist doctor, provides me with mistletoe, the very mistletoe that you hang during the holidays. Mistletoe has a history of medicinal use. The European varieties have been used in traditional medicine to treat seizures, headaches, arthritis, hypertension, infertility, and even cancer. I do mistletoe injections regularly, injecting myself. I know it helps fight cancer, builds the immune system, and it gives me a ton of energy. I really don't need Red Bull. The mistletoe is just great. The first ever mistletoe trial in this country is underway at Johns Hopkins as I speak. That is incredible. I dial up and I dial down on energy healing, inducing organic, acupuncture, and therapy. Therapy and cancer go hand in hand, by the way. Everyone needs a good therapist, right? I've had all the mercury removed from my old dental work, hired an alternative nutritionist, and I do meditation and yoga. But there's one foundation that never changes, and that's God. God was not in my life very much before 2012 when I had the advanced diagnosis, and I wasn't embracing anything. We were living in Nicaragua, and we're about to leave in 2011 when a missionary from the church that we went to came up to me and said, "I'm not sure why, but God asked me to seek you out." I thought it was very weird. So I had coffee with her, and there were no light bulbs going off for either of us. But I think in a very odd way, God knew I needed him. I just didn't know it. And when my life fell apart with stage 3 in 2012, things happened and fell in place with my opening the door a bit more to faith, to call on him for healing and pray. And I've met so many people around the country. I've been invited into a Bible study, but I can't tell you how many people I have praying for me around this country. And I have to pause and realize that strange, very strange encounter in Nicaragua, I believe is God's way to reaching out to me. My third principle is put your ego and humility aside. I stepped down from managing 250 people and overseeing a $10 billion budget. I needed time to get better, to heal, to survive, to be with my family. That's all that really mattered. I literally was falling apart. I needed time to reflect. Is this it? My agency, who I work for, has been so supportive and to this day allows me to be an executive. I'm not managing hundreds of people or billions of dollars. While I'm on this cancer journey, I have been able to remain an executive, and I am so grateful for that. I feel like a shadow in the distance at work sometimes, there's no question. And I've had to put my ego aside. I'm okay with not being at the leadership table because my core is my family. Putting everything I have into surviving and living each day is sacred and above all else. I debated talking about the ugly side of cancer, the ugly things it does to you, but I'm going to take a moment and just share something. And this has to do with ego and more humility and dignity. I was traveling a lot to New York when I started my cancer journey, and I did it all. Trains, planes, buses, anything to get up and back. And I was taking the bus back with my sister one time, and I was on an immunotherapy drug. And we got onto the bus, and I told her I wasn't feeling great. And I got sick, and I passed out, apparently with convulsion-like movements. And I came to, and I reminded my sister, oh, when I get sick, I pass out. It's vasovagal syncope. And for the doctors in this room, I'm probably not even sure I'm saying that right. But it's not a serious or life-threatening condition. It's an abnormal reflex thing. And I got sick several times on the bus, and word had gotten to the driver that there was a gravely ill person passing out and convulsing up top. So we pulled over, and the ambulance comes. I have to get off the bus, and I know people were irritated. I was holding them up, and those Washingtonians who had to get back to Washington, not much patience there. And I just explained to the ambulance, oh, it's a reflex issue. I left out the cancer part because I thought I would really be holding up that bus. And so I got back on the bus, and I moved downstairs, and you should have seen everyone just moved upstairs. And guess what? You get the drift. Things did not go well the rest of the ride. And this time the bus pulled over again, and off I went into an ambulance to who knows where. I had no idea where I was, in the middle of somewhere. I think it was Maryland. There are many times when I've crawled to the bathroom on the floor, where I went shopping with my uncle and kids and had to throw all the clothes in my arms, handing them over to my uncle and racing out to the car because I couldn't take it. I was not well. To step out of a big job, to have no control over your body in front of dozens, pulling over while my kids are in the car, explaining to my youngest two, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to pass out, I will be back in about 30 seconds. To lay down on the park, I remember this so vividly. While my daughters had to rush and go find help, I literally had to lay down in a park. That is ego, dignity, humility, and pride aside. That is cancer. But I'm still here today. My fourth principle is the importance of a strong network around you. Networks are vital to our success, both personally and professionally. Those friends who just make our days happier. These are the circle of people who you want on your side to help keep you positive, to build up your confidence, to provide you with a lending hand to accomplish your goals. And my goals were and are simple. It's to live and to fill my kids' lives with memories. I've learned some networks fail you, but they either come around or you have enough of a network that you rely on those who truly back you. My 77-year-old dad has never missed a surgery. This past one, he slept on the couch in my room, and the one before that, in a chair. I am sure that chair was not comfortable sleeping in all night long. When I mentioned that some of my hair was coming out on one of my treatments, and mind you, on immunotherapy, I never experienced full hair loss like on chemotherapy. But my dad, when he heard, some of her hair's falling out, I really think he thought I was going to lose all my hair. So what does he do? My dad lives in Wyoming. That is an important point. He shaves his entire head and sent me the picture. And I thought, oh boy, I cannot send him a photo or FaceTime or Skype with him for a while. What the heck? He just shaved his head in the middle of a Wyoming winter. My dad is part of my foundational network. My mom comes out every surgery and is armed to cook and get my weight back. My community has helped me and made sure my family was fed. And my friends, many there and some not. You lose some friends on a cancer journey. I didn't expect that. I thought friends were always there for you. And my husband, who's grown on this journey, he's there for me every day. I've made sure that I have had and have a healthy network, learning to ask for things, so unlike my character. If you knew me, you would be like, oh, she does it all. I have learned to ask for help. My network consists of people who will never take a break or deviate from supporting me. Their feedback, honesty, and dependability help me grow and overcome the challenges I face, because none of us can do it alone, or at least effectively. My fifth principle is uncertainty and staying on course. The fear, the anxiety that goes with each scan never gets easier. I've had almost 35 scans in the last 5 years. Every 3 months, I go through the cycle of, is the cancer back? Why can't it just go away? And when it comes back like it did last March, I was heartbroken. How in the world was I going to break it to the kids again? Life seemed to be getting back to normal, and I had to tell them, Mom's cancer is back. And I won't tell you the words my 16-year-old son used. It's the first time I probably didn't say, don't use that language. And with my work, I have so much drive, but I wonder, should I step up again? But what happens if the cancer comes back? I wish I could say, I've got this, but I don't. There are so many fears and worries. And the truth is, there's many times when I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm angry. And there's many times when I find myself okay. Right after a scan, if I get the good news, it's all clear, I feel like celebrating. I feel that is the time where you will catch me in my best mood ever. There are times when I have courage, I have mental strength, and I simply think, I'll just do another surgery because I can. My melanoma has not proliferated to the point of inoperability. It's been one tumor. So surgery is part of my game plan. There's such great uncertainty and challenges, not just about the cancer unknowns, but about financing cancer. We've been out of network with some and in network, and I tell you, we have accumulated considerable debt that we are still paying off. And then you add in the alternative treatments. On top of that, there is no question cancer is not cheap. But you do anything to survive. Because I have 4 kids. I have a family, a life that I am not done living. I don't care what the cost is. I will pay what it takes to survive. And let me tell you why I'm still living. Much to do with my mental courage and strength, but also the latest incredible immunotherapy drugs. And I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about them, because many of them are the way of the future. There are so many clinical trials and immunotherapy drugs that Johns Hopkins is on top of and is at the cutting edge point on, that it gives me such hope. Many trials that have been developed and drugs since 2011, and it's allowed me to live hard and live fairly normally. And I've been able to manage the side effects to spend quality time with my family. So shortly after that 2012 stage 3 diagnosis and the lymph node resection, I went on a clinical vaccine trial. Our family traveled to your beautiful state of Florida. I think I want to retire here, by the way. It's beautiful. We went to Disney World several times. Our kids were so young. And other than flu-like symptoms, fevers and chills for a couple of months, I was fine. I could deal with the flu for a couple of months. You know how rotten you feel when you have the flu? Just have it for a couple of months, but I could deal with that. Almost 1.5 years of no evidence of disease, the cancer returned to the liver in 2014. And I have to tell you, I will never forget when somebody told me that, and it was not at Hopkins, but a physician aide came in and said, well, the good news is it didn't go to the brain. And I just stopped right there and thought, oh my God, well, where did it go to? The bedside manner, it was horrific. It was not at Hopkins. So it returned to the liver in early 2014. And after a very tough liver surgery done robotically, I went on the drug Zelboraf. Zelboraf is a targeted therapy that blocks the function of abnormal molecules to slow the growth of melanoma. My hair, that's when it got super thin, no ounce of tolerance to the sun. Sunscreen is always essential, right? But on Zelboraf, if a single spot was left uncovered from sunscreen, I would develop this major red, painful sunburn. I developed a rash all over my body, not just a normal light rash. It was, they should have put me on an island and just kept me there isolated. And they had to reduce the drug to the minimum level, and I could not complete the full course due to the toxicity. But while on Zelboraf, and this is the fun part, while on these targeted drugs and immunotherapy drugs, this time, summer 2014, we went to Iceland in the Blue Lagoon, Norway, visiting my sister and husband in the fjords, and seeing my kids plunge into the glacier water. In England, to see more family going to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in London's Theatre District. Going to a water buffalo farm with Dorothy in Italy. Seeing 20 Maltese friends in Malta who I studied with 25 years ago. And learning how to scuba dive there. And being at the very, very tip of the Italian boot in Sicily. Susan, you gotta try it. All while on the melanoma targeted drug Zelboraf. I could live. I could manage. Another liver surgery, so there was another year of no evidence of disease, and then my cancer returned again in early 2005. Another liver surgery, and a tough one. The liver just, tough surgery. I went on my first immunotherapy drug, Yervoy. I cannot say the medical drug names, so forgive me, but it's like ipilimumab, something like that. The drug was the toughest one and kept me closer to home because one wrong dietary choice, I was in an ambulance recovering at the hospital. My diet consisted of pasta, rice, eggs, and meat, and resulted in about 20 pounds of weight loss. Who needs Jenny Craig? Yervoy, administered intravenously, was originally approved in 2011 to treat late-stage melanoma. Yervoy works by allowing the body's immune system to recognize, target, and attack melanoma cells, melanoma tumors. This drug gave me the largest window of no evidence of disease, 2015 to 2017. And for my 50th birthday, my girlfriends and I traveled to Peru, and we climbed the Salcantay Peak, the back way into Machu Picchu, and reaching almost 16,000 on our climb at the very peak. This was my first major mountain climb on my cancer journey. Then I had another, that was the 2 years of no evidence of disease. I thought I was out of the woods. Some say stage 4 melanoma patients will experience a 90% return. Dr. Lersten from Hopkins says it's difficult to estimate disease recurrence rate in patients with stage 4 melanoma, largely because the response to the therapies varies so widely. And in terms of the 5-year survival rate for patients stage 4 melanoma, my situation, it was about 15% a few years ago. My survival rate, 5 years, is about 30% now. It's doubled. So the cancer came back in March 2017, now outside of the colon area, and I tried Opdivo, the sister drug to what President Jimmy Carter used for his melanoma that had reached the brain. Opdivo works as a checkpoint inhibitor, blocking a signal that would have prevented activated T cells from attacking the cancer, thus clearing the immune system, having the immune system clear the cancer out. Opdivo did not work for me. I moved on to a clinical trial, Opdivo plus, it's called LAG-3. It's a cell surface molecule expressed on activated T cells. And the hope was that this combination would do the trick. So remember, I had a 4-inch tumor on the outside of my colon. While on this clinical trial, I was on a very strict 2-week infusion schedule, and my main side effect was exhaustion. But that did not stop me from traveling to Japan with my eldest child for a one-on-one trip. I've told each of my kids, when you're 15, we're gonna do a one-on-one trip. Because I figure after 15, you start losing them, right? They just like, I don't want mom. So we went to Japan. And this was the same child 4 years earlier who I sat on the edge of the bathtub with, sharing tears, because we didn't know if I was going to survive. I had an infusion on a Tuesday, got on a plane on Wednesday and flew to Japan, climbed Mount Fuji, the second major mountain with cancer, and 8 hours in the rain climbing that mountain, we reached the top at 4 a.m. and caught sunrise, my son's first ever sunrise. And after 12 days, we returned to the US, and I made my infusion the very next day upon return from this most incredible and memorable trip. As a result of our trip, my son wants to continue his Japanese studies and move to Tokyo one day. Do you know what this means to a mom with cancer? To see something sparked in your child, to know that they'll have a future. They need their mom, but he will be okay. And after returning from Japan, the scans showed minimal tumor shrinkage. It was then that I decided I wanted surgery. I had differing opinions, and I went with my gut. The medicine was not showing astounding results, but perhaps I didn't give it enough time. I was not willing to wait. And it's okay, because for me, surgery was the way to go. And Dr. Lersten of Hopkins recently told me, Cindy, you do really well with surgery. We need to keep that in mind should there be recurrences. He saw a different person when that tumor came out. I recover quickly. I have had operable tumors, and so, as I've said, surgery is just part of my plan. Yervoy, the drug I did, the first immunotherapy drug, Opdivo, a second one, and LAG-3, all three of these drugs work by allowing the body's immune system to recognize, target, and attack cells and melanoma tumors. And a major component of Johns Hopkins research right now involves discovering which of these medications and others like them are effective in patients and why. So even though these drugs didn't provide a cure for me or show the significant results that I wanted to see, I am relieved to know that Johns Hopkins is examining why. Why do these drugs work in some and not the other? The melanoma immunotherapy drugs have no doubt extended my life. And there are many combinations of melanoma drugs, many clinical trials that I haven't done. So while I've done the FDA-approved melanoma drugs, there's different options. You can mix drugs. You can combine drugs. There are many things I have in my back pocket. And my windows of no evidence of disease, that allows for more time, for more drugs to get to the FDA finish line. My December scans were clear, and my kids now 8, 11, 13, and 16 still have a mom for them every day. I'm in a watch and see mode, and with my next PET and CT scan in March, my care is ongoing, and that is just my life. But the longer I survive, the more options I have, and all of us should remember that. So in conclusion, why did I get melanoma? Was it the baby oil, sunning, tanning days? I know some of you out there did it too. The blistering sunburns in childhood. I used to go skiing in Steamboat and not an ounce of sunscreen on my face. Or is it genetic? My 53-year-old sister developed stage 1 melanoma 2 years ago. Actually, I think it was 3. And then just had a stage 1 recurrence last year. No one can tell me exactly why. How does one live scan to scan, wondering if in a 3-month time frame, that cancer's coming back? I'll be honest, it's hard. And the nights are hard for me. They're quiet, they're scary, they're lonely. The thoughts that pass through my mind at nighttime, they're chilling. There's not one day that goes by when I don't think about my health. In the chemotherapy ward, where you go for immunotherapy infusions, among the many sick receiving my infusions, I don't feel like I belong there, but I am there. I don't feel like I deserve this. I've learned so much to love harder, to be kinder, to be more compassionate, to yell less, although my kids still would disagree. I yell, but I try to yell less. I don't feel my family deserves this, to have a mom or a wife who is sick, but we are in this space. I will live each day with or without melanoma. I beat the odds 5 years ago, and when I thought cancer was a death sentence, it was not. I treat it like a chronic illness. And I am wondering, what mountain will I climb next? Thank you.